Have you ever watched something you loved so much fall a disgraceful fall? Like Icarus, when he got too close to the sun, thinking that he could reach all the ambitions he wanted to in the world, but had a unfortunate demise. The same could be said for hit visual novel. Anti-visual novel. See, Class of 09 released on June 10th, 2021, and while it left a, let's say, small impact with the re-release or updated release, Class of 09 The Re-Up releasing in 2023, the game has gathered a cult following. However, with the most recent release being Class of 09 The Flip Side, the reception of the game is negative. But how could this be? How did Class of 09 fall off? Is what I would be saying if I actually gave a shit about this game. Alright, let's cut the bullshit. If you're watching this video, chances are you've heard about Class of 09, whether it be through its somewhat comedic moments in game to some of the absurd and zany happenings that happen in the later half of these games. Now, recently, the series has come under fire for its most recent release, Class of 09 The Flip Side, a game featuring Jecka, I guess the deuteragonist of Class of 09 and Class of 09 The Re-Up. She's Nicole's best friend and often tags along with her throughout her many misadventures. However, the game has received a lot of conflict and, I guess, criticism of sorts. And I kind of wanted to discuss about it a little bit because I'm seeing, let's just say, some questionable things arise. Now, to be completely frank with you, there is no way you played any of these games and genuinely thought that there was any unique character writing, any depth, any nuance. I want to kind of open the door by mentioning all of that. Because to me, Class of 09 is best experienced as a game you play with friends that you laugh at. Not with, laugh at. In fact, if you really want to enjoy this game to the maximum capabilities, might I suggest you play a nice little fun drinking game. Drink every time an inappropriate activity is mentioned with a minor, anytime someone's accused of being a minor, or anytime someone says anything inappropriate to a minor. You're not going to last past the first 15 minutes. And let's be completely frank and honest here. The Flip Side is nothing more than the continued degradation of this series. The Flip Side is everything about this series that you either like or dislike played up to 10. Now, as someone who's able to experience this series through a friend purchasing the game on Steam and also owning a Steam family copy of the game, my personal opinion is the series been ass from the start. There is no way you sat there and you played through Class of 09, you played through the Re-Up, and you thought it was giving you genuine social commentary, or you latched onto the game thinking that it was a narrative trying to promote fucking whatever kind of idea. To me, this game has always been a 4chan slop fest, for lack of a better term. In fact, it's quite apparent in the many endings you can get in this game, right? There's the one where Jeffrey, a whole school. There's one where you manage to convince a whole school to become white nationalists and chant white power. In fact, there's an ending where you work and you make a chlorine bomb and you blow up a minority building. So when the Flip Side comes out, and my friend, he streams it for us on release night, I remember going to bed after completing 2 of the routes with him thinking, man, it's more Class of 09, whether you like it or not. Only for me to open up Twitter the next morning and realize, wow, people hate this game. Why? And we're going to answer some of those critiques because I do believe that there is a fair amount that you can criticize about Class of 09. However, I think the straw breaking the camel's back being all the foot-related content in this game is incredibly hypocritical of not only the fan base, but I guess, just the fan base, honestly. Because, let's be real, this game has always been edgy from the start. As I mentioned earlier in this video, you cannot go more than 15 seconds without Nicole, Jecka, or anyone insinuating someone is doing something wildly inappropriate to underage individuals. That is the common, gag throughout the game is guessing, okay, how do these characters interact with women? Why are they the scum of the earth? No one in this game is fucking redeemable. They're all horrific people. In fact, most of the plots that you go about in Class 19 involve Jecka and Nicole trying to scheme, minimize, or belittle someone into accomplishing their goal. Let's say, for example, the route where, I believe in the re-up, where Nicole, instead of going and actually doing charity, she decides to commit charity fraud, and that ends down the route of her selling drugs to her teacher. Like, silly shit like that. That is what Class of 09 has always been about. And when I see people latch onto these games through the or out of context Twitter clips, the TikTok feeds completely stripping the game audio from any context of the situation, part of me wants to feel bad, but at the same time, I kind of don't. I really don't, because there's no way you were able to experience this game in any way, shape, or form and experience the dark, or not dark, let's just say edgy, because that's what it is. It's nothing more than edgy humor trying to be shocking throughout the entire runtime. It reminds me a lot of Family Guy and South Park. It feels like I'm reading Diary of a Wimpy Kid, except you gender swapped Greg and Rowley and you gave Rowley big tits. That's what playing Class 09 feels like. A lot of these plots are stuff that Greg would come up with if Diary of a Wimpy Kid wasn't a book made for toddlers, right? And I think there's no shame, and if you really do like Class 09, I think this game is enjoyable in the way that I enjoy Domestic Girlfriend. It is complete and utter slop that I love watching burn, purely because it's burning and it gives me something to moderately laugh about if you don't think about it too hard. You don't think about the implications of this, right? In the flip side, for those of you who are unaware, there are at least 2 endings in the game that deal with Nicole / Jecka going down the route of selling their body to these individuals by letting them touch on their feet. Now, I'm not going to act like that this is magically fixes, or I think that a lot of the people acting like this is coming out of a left field and is nothing new to the franchise are being incredibly disingenuous. Jeffrey is often belittled and ridiculed for his taste in women and some of his fetishes. In fact, that leads down the route of him the whole school. Now, I do agree that it is somewhat uncomfortable to have to experience. I'm not going to deny it. And later on in a Twitter space, which at the time of recording happened later this day, the creator, or not the creator, the writer, I believe it's SBN3, he clarifies that, hey, all the routes in this game are things that I've experienced, or I know someone who's experienced in real life. And he tells a story about how he knew a girl who was going through some of the events that Jecka did, right? And my question to the people who drew the line at this is that there are several things that you can draw the line at. You can draw the line at all the racist comments, all the ignorant remarks in this game. You can draw a line at all the horrific actions taken by some of the people in this game, like Kyler and how he often threatens to SA or domestically abuse someone in this game. You could draw the line at so many things, but you draw the line at there being multiple scenes of Jecka and Nicole putting their feet on people and then they're getting praised like they've been getting praised throughout the entire franchise. To me, it just feels like a stupid point to draw the line in. Like, you mean to tell me the white power ending was completely fine, but you draw the line at a foot fetish thing? Are you genuinely serious? Because there are genuine issues with the flip side, and to kind of delve into it, I believe that the game is simply too short. The game has 5 total routes, which is kind of crazy when you see that Class 19 original, I believe, launched with about 7 different whole routes, all with their own each individual ending. Another thing that the flip side lacks is a sense of choices, right? Class 19, you would often have little side adventures you could go on that would end up circling back into the main route. The one I think of off the top of my head is when you go with Jecka to the mall to steal a CD, and Nicole ends up getting by the police and end up getting sent to the hospital, right? And in the flip side, it is completely devoid of any of those fun side routes that kind of, I guess, really add to the visual novel / choose your own adventure style of the book. Really, you got about 4 choices in this game, maybe 5, because there is 5 different endings. But I'm gonna keep it real. There's 2 genuine routes, and they're all decided by 1 decision. It kind of feels like lazy in a sense. Now, there is one legitimately really good route in this game, and that is Jecka's route that takes you to her perspective of the route that ends with Nicole taking her own life. I believe that route is actually really compelling, and on that note, I want to give praise to all the voice actors in this game because everyone brought their A game. especially Jecka's VA. She did a phenomenal job, especially during the scenes where her dad and her are going back and forth. It feels really real to a certain extent. And that's one thing that I feel a lot of people are trying to minimize, is that when the game locks in, it can be genuinely really, I guess, captivating to a certain extent, right? Another thing I want to touch on about this game is I feel like just having 5 routes is genuinely absurd, because you can do so much with a Jecka perspective. You can go through some of the routes, you can combine some of the elements, and really all you have is she gets into a car crash with Ari dies. You have the foot fetish ending where Jeffrey dies. You have the foot fetish ending where Jecka takes her own life. You have her getting sold off, and then you have, is that it? I'm trying. I think I'm missing one. I think I hit all of them, but like, really, if you're a fan with Jecka, or if you're a fan of Jecka, I would not recommend you play this game in any way, shape, or form. As someone who thought Jecka was moderately entertaining throughout the original release of Class 09 and also the re-up, I end up feeling bad for her throughout a lot of the events that happen in this game, because a lot of it isn't her fault directly. It's not like how it is in the original 2 games, where Nicole ends up doing some grand scheme or some stupid plot to get out of doing something, and then you kind of have to watch her, I guess, girl fill her way through it all. Now, in the original games, Nicole often has at least 2 or 3 endings where, hey, everything works out. She gets a good ending. There's a lawsuit ending where she walks away with $500,000 and moves to LA. There's an ending where she just graduates. There's an ending where she becomes a YouTuber. Right? Nicole gets to have her good endings, but the entire game is just beating down on Jecka. Jecka gets literally nothing in this game that genuinely makes her happy, or even a good ending of sorts, especially her relationship with her dad. And it kind of just blatantly sucks. It's crazy dropping $15 on this game and you get less content, or content routes, than the original release that came out in 2021. I think that is genuinely crazy. And to touch on one of the other routes in this game, the route where you go down working with, I believe it's FY3 or FYE, with, I forgot her name off the top of my head, but I'm gonna keep it straight. If you don't talk about things that the flip side does horrifically wrong, and which should be the main talking point of this game, let's talk about the 5 routes existing and most of them sucking. Genuinely, because the route where you end up going down the path line of her getting sold off as a slave is genuinely just unfunny and boring for 90% of the runtime. People play this game for the funny interactions between characters, and there are funny interactions in this game, but that whole route is just so devoid of fun. It just turns into a lame ass mystery where the ending is kind of just dark and depressing. For no other reason. These games are a comedy first and foremost, let's be completely honest, but that route is just not funny in any way, shape, or form. The best part of the route is when Nicole's up, and then Nicole's in that route for about 2 scenes before she bounces off. The funniest part about that route is the ending where Obama pardons Jecka. That was the funniest thing that ever happened in that route. And to touch on some of the discourse about that route, I see a lot of people arguing about Jecka's comment about being sold off to Pakistan or Palestine. To me, I think interpreting that as a dig towards Palestine is completely idiotic. I do agree that it can come across as a little tone deaf. However, to me, it kind of read more as like a haha, white girl doesn't know the difference between the Middle Eastern countries, which, considering that this game wants to hammer in on the fact that it takes place during 2008, I'm willing to let the game kind of get a pass on it a little bit. I think if I was in the position of SPN3, I just wouldn't have put Palestine as the other country, just because I know how much of a touchy topic that can be and how sensitive, and especially even more so because it just wasn't funny. Like, just genuinely, like that part I was like, damn. Especially that being the last route that was completed, I kind of felt like the whole game just existed as Jecka torture porn, for lack of a better term. Now, to sit here and talk about so much, a lot of the wider discourse, I see a lot of tweets that show up on the timeline. Just scrolling through, I remember Edith, right, Raggy Scraggy, had tweeted out the new Class of Line game was doing the exact same thing the OG was, but for some reason everyone's now hating on it instead of acting like it's peak. I'm sorry, the 6 out of character clips you see, or out of context clips you see on TikTok don't live up to your expectations. You had to find out the hard way, Class 9 was always butt cheeks. Now someone makes this quote retweet, not really lol. The Class 9, without knowing the creator's intentions, reads as a woman who is so done with having to appeal to the pedophilic rapist men that she abuses and manipulates them back. It's therapeutic. The new game is 50% foot fetish stuff, and the creator throwing a bitch fit like bad people like Nicole. Got all the endings in the first game, by the way, nearly 300 likes. I'm gonna do it again. Now, the quote retweet to this tweet I actually heavily agree with is that, like, to me, I believe art really can be interpreted by anyone. You can have your own conclusions to it, but to be like genuine, in my personal opinion, I really do not think in any way, shape, or form the game contributes to that being a genuine ending. In fact, I believe Ruggy Scruggy kind of hammers in on that fact. I say this with my whole, with nothing but love in my heart. I'm glad you were able to come to that interpretation of the story. That being said, if you do actually know the creator's intentions, you'll remember that this game in all essence is just an edgy garbage visual novel. We as a species recycle the faces of livestock and use it as fertilizer. Manure has a lot of value to it and exists because we found out about it. That being said, manure is still just a heaping pile of shit. The cow didn't want to give us fertilizer, it just had the shit. By the way, my takeaway here is that you shouldn't enjoy edgy garbage. Every human being on the planet has guilty pleasures, but don't get mad at when something you enjoy for not holding back decides to not hold back on making fun of what you support. The same shit happened with South Park. Another thing that I agree with, especially when you read the Steam page for the original release, Class of 09 is described as this is the anti-visual novel. Instead of playing as some guy magically able to score with the beautiful anime girls, you play the anime girl and create a mass chaos in the lives of your potential suitors. Earnest comedy, social accuracy, and the late 2000s aesthetic awaits you in Class of 09. And the tagline, it's not a dating sim, it's a rejection sim, which it isn't even that either. You literally pal around with Nicole, Jecka, and her other friends and just create mischief around campus. My main point in talking about this game in general is I don't believe that it really had a downfall of sorts. To me, these edgy elements were apparent throughout the entire franchise, and I'm really so sorry you had to find out that the 4chan edgy game is 4chan-y and edgy. I apologize that you had to find out about this. I don't know. A lot of the complaints about this game kind of feel like the meme that's like when your friend is too woke, because you're making a mountain out of a molehill. Now, I've had my own personal opinions about this game. I believe, I don't think in good faith you can play through the first 2 games filled with both racism and other forms of bigotry, but draw the line at some feet. Like, that is just such a stupid ass thing to kind of call your breaking point. It's weird. Another tweet that I saw that actually kind of made me question the authenticity of or the genuineness of everyone commenting on this is, if I had a nickel for any time a popular indie game with an edgy ponytail pro tag fell off because the creator couldn't stop being a gooner for 2 minutes, I'd have 2 nickels. Sorry, Class of 09 fans, happens to the best of us. Comparing Class of 09 to Yandere Simulator, and I'm going to be completely transparent with you, I think this is one of the most disingenuous comparisons ever. This is comparing apples to oranges. See, Yandere Simulator fell off primarily because Alex not only didn't finish the game, but he also ended up getting outed for being just a genuine horrible person. And I believe you shouldn't compare someone exhibiting behavior similar to a PDF individual should be compared to some 4chan user sitting in his room making jokes. Like, there's no way you can tell me with good faith that a game where Kyler exists, where over half of his lines are about him being stupid jock, he's gonna domestically abuse someone, or he's gonna essay somebody. It's like you're not gonna tell me that this is excusable, or is like some I'm just so confused. You're telling me on a game where in a world where a game like this exists that it's supposed to be some progressive media? I'm a little lost a little bit. But on that note, the worst that Class of 09 is that it's just edgy. Now, I originally hated this game. I hated this game so much. Simply because during my first semester in college, I lived in a dorm and I had a friend who got into the game and I couldn't sleep for nights. All I'm hearing is, bitch, give me a fry. What? Bitch, give me a fry. Then that shit got real fucking annoying, and that kind of spewed my initial hatred for the game. But eventually down the line, I was able to play it, and then I came to the conclusion, oh, this game is ass. right? If you're gonna criticize this game and also by extension the rest of the franchise, you kind of have to be not transparent, but you have to be objective and mention the bad parts about the previous games. I wholeheartedly believe you were not able to ignore all that shit just because you thought there was a chance at Jecka and Nicole getting together. I hate to burst your bubble. But if you got queer baited by Class 19 and the Big 24, I think you might need to pay attention to English class a little bit more, but that's just me, right? And to conclude this video before it gets way too out of hand, I just think Class 19 has always been authentic and genuine what it is. It is an edgy visual novel that is supposed to be the antithesis to everything in the genre. Does it excel at any of that? Absolutely not. The game is raunchy, the game is dark, and at times disturbing for no other reason than just because it can. And I'm tired of people acting like that's not what Class 19 is, because it's baked into it at its very core. And that's all I gotta say on this topic. I think for a while I'm gonna sit out of doing commentary videos. Definitely check out some of my other content on the channel, because you should. It'd be pretty funny. But that's more or less it. If you fuck with Class 19, or if you fuck with Class 19, more power to you. I just think this shit has been slop garbage from the beginning, and it's going to maintain being slop garbage. But that's enough out of me. I'm finna tap out.